Hi gang, John here with Real Truck Garage. Today we're going to be showing you how to install the X-Metal T-Rex grill into our 2013 F-150. Now the first thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get this old grill out of this truck. We want to take some masking tape and mask off our grill and around our hood so that way we don't scratch anything up when we start to pry this grill shell off of this truck. Okay, now you can see here that we've got our grill and the area around our grill on our hood all taped up so that we don't scratch that when we go to get this grill out of here. The next step of the process is to go ahead and open this grill up and take the bolts loose that hold it on. Now on this particular grill, on this truck, there's several bolts that line along the top of here that we're going to take the nuts off of those. And then there's a couple, as you can see down here on the bottom, and we'll go ahead and take those loose, and then I'll show you how to get that grill shell out of the truck. What we want to do is we want to take either a thin flat screwdriver or a thin bar, a thin pry bar, something of that nature, and just kind of get in between the grill and the hood and just kind of lift and give it a little prying at the same time. Now it's going to be a little bit stiff because there's clips actually in here that hold this in place, as well as those bolts that we took out earlier. Okay, now that we've got our grill out, we've got it laid up here where we can work with it. The next step of this process is to go ahead and take our die grinder, and what we want to do is cut it out along these edges here and cut these top and bottom bars out so we can get the center of this grill out of this shell so that we can put our new grill in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use a die grinder with a narrow bit on this, and what that'll do is that'll just allow me a little better control, and I can just give it a little cut along the edges here so that way we don't get too deep into the grill shell itself, because we kind of want to keep that pretty much intact. A person could actually use a hacksaw or a sawzall, or even say a rotary tool such as a Dremel with a cutting wheel on it to go along and do the same thing. Now that we've got our grill cut loose, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take our center section and we'll set this off to the side. And then what I'll do is I like to come back in here and kind of clean up these edges a little bit where you can see where we ground it out. And then typically I'll just get a little black paint and just kind of spray that gray that's left over, just so that way when we get our grill in our truck, we don't see any of that behind it. Gives us a much cleaner, nicer look and finish. Now the next step is to go ahead and start inserting our new grill insert. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and grab our grill insert and we'll slide it up underneath our shell. And then what we're going to want to do is go ahead and pull these rubber caps off. Now once you get the thread off, or the cover off of there, then what we're going to do is we're going to take these little L brackets and we'll take the L bracket and we'll put it down over the threaded area. And then we have our little self-locking nuts. We'll go ahead and put that on top of that threaded bolt. And just get that started on there. We don't want to tighten these down just yet because we may have to move our grill insert back and forth a little bit in the grill shell just to get it set, so that it's in the middle right where we want it. And I'm pretty sure now, looking at ours, that we've got it just about where we want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the rest of these rubber caps off and start putting these L brackets on, and then we'll show you how to go ahead and get the rest of this installed. I've got all of our L brackets on, got those all tightened down, got this grill insert right where we want it. Now the next step is to go ahead, and these two brackets on the sides, as you can see in here, what we're going to do is we're just going to take an 1/8 inch drill bit and we're going to drill through those. And then we have these clips along with the screw that actually go into there to hold these on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and drill those out now and put those screws and clamps on. Now that we've got our sides all bolted down, we're ready to go ahead and put this grill all together back in our pickup. Now that you've got all your bolts that hold your grill in place, all tightened up, the next step is to go ahead and bring this thing down and go ahead and peel all this tape off that we put on here. And there you have it. That's how you install an X-Metal T-Rex grill into a 2013 F-150.